finally set in where I'm at. Pretty much the same. It's pretty much the same as it was in California. You get to finally like cool off at the end of October. We got like a tiny slight heat wave, kind of in the middle of October, and then it was. The weather's so good, I don't want to be inside. That's what it's like, you know. So I want to get the dogs and like go take them to the dog park or something, you know. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a good day. It started later than normal this time, and the reason was I wasn't feeling that great. I was really tired because I was up kind of late, doing some book cover design, and should really do more of that live because come up with some fun covers. Doing some live book cover design, or not live, but doing some non-live book cover design, doing some new cover design, and then recording the story that's live on the channel now. I'll link it on the blog, because the blog has a couple typos that I fixed, I guess, while I was recording it, but it's called Mad Uncle Marty. And the idea of this story, which is going to be in the new book, so I'll link you the blog post, and I'll link you the new book as well. It's called Afterglow Generation Y. You've probably read most of the book already, either on my blog or if you watch any of the videos that are on the YouTube channel that have this kind of thing on it. Then you've heard most of it already. Which means you could just review the book if you wanted to. So, but this is for people who want like a hard copy of the book. They want to have the book and they want to have all those stories in one place. So there's a bunch of Gen Y stories from my website, from the channel. Some of them you can find in J.D. Cowan's collection that he did called... I'll link it here. It's called The New Lost Generation, or Generation Y, The New Lost Generation. So this, rather than being essays, this is really just fiction. And it's just fiction describing, there's people kind of perched between Gen X and the millennial crowd. So these are the people who came of age at or around 9/11, right? So we remember what it was like to have no internet. And then our young adulthood was spent with internet. We, like people like me who graduated college before social media existed. It's a different perspective, right? These are the Gen Ys, the generation that fought 20 years worth of war at this point. Actually, there are two generations, right? Gen Y and millennials fought in the last two wars, which just went on forever. There's some stories in here that cover the veteran perspective and stuff like that. So all of that stuff is in there. Lots of different perspectives. So this new one, it's called Mad Uncle Morty. And the idea here is that, what happens to the consumer when the terminally online Funko Pop collector, what happens when you get old and you can't take care of yourself anymore? Like, who's going to take you in? Who's going to watch your back, right? So that's the idea of Mad Uncle Morty there. It's like, who's going to take care of Mad Uncle Morty now that he can't take care of himself? And so, like, how are we going to pay for his care, for instance? I have a box. It's a little messy in here, whatever. Who's going to pay for his care? Because, there's no one to pay for it. Who's going to pay for the care? He doesn't have any kids. He didn't invest in a relationship with his nieces, nephews, and their kids for them to want to deal with him. He has his older brother who is himself old, right, and invalid, right, who can't take care of him either. So who's going to take care of Mad Uncle Morty? And what are you going to do with this house full of junk? Because what happens to Funko Pops in the year 2065? Do you think Funko Pops are going to be worth anything in 2065? How much are they going to be worth? Who's going to want to buy them in 2065? Who's going to want to buy your Magic cards? I need to sell my Magic cards. I don't have that many, but I think I did a video on this actually, which was, Magic the Gathering or Wizards of the Coast came out with this Magic Night game box that had one deck of each color in a little box. And I'm like, this is perfect because you take this, you put it on the shelf with your other games, and when you and your friends want to play Magic the Gathering, you have 5 pre-built decks that is what they are. They're all low power, which means you can have fun playing with them. You're not going to get curb stomped by some like infinite mana loop or some kind of weird thing like that, or you're not going to get stomped because you don't have a bunch of black lotuses in your deck. Or you could print out, you could always print out custom stuff with like black lotuses and things like that. So yeah, I mean, what are you going to do with this junk when you get old? So Morty has a whole, or Marty, not Morty. There's a subtle thing there, but like Marty has a whole room of Funko Pops, but in 2065 and 2070, they're junk. Like, they're only worth giving to a vinyl recycler to get a couple of dollars, because they made millions of these, and all the people who wanted them are dead by then, right? All the people who wanted to collect Funko Pops have gotten old and died, and there's a couple of people who are weird and are like, well, I'm going to collect Funko Pops because they're cheap and weird, But most people are not going to care about Funko Pops when they get old, and they're not going to care that it's pristine in a box. They're not going to care about any of that. So, and then there's a little child that's like, why doesn't he take the toys out of the box? Like, why didn't he want to play with them? And it's like, it's debatable whether he liked these things at all, considering he never did anything with them. So that's that story in a nutshell. And that's really dealing with these questions that lots of people in my generation, lots of people younger than me too, are probably going to have to deal with. I really hope that the Zoomers, I really hope the younger generation, the people that are maybe 20 years younger than me, if you guys are like at or around age 20, I'm really hoping that generation will basically be the opposite of the millennials. And in a lot of ways, the opposite of Gen Y, my generation. Which is to say, I really hope that they find and embrace stability in their lives early enough that they can have families and enjoy their families. For me and my wife, we didn't have kids until we were in our 30s. And as thankful as I am for my kids, I don't think my wife would disagree. It would have been great if we could have started earlier, but our lives were going too far all over the place when we first met. We had our own separate things going on. So it was really, we had children really as soon as we could have had children, given how unstable our lives were. And that stability really only set in right before we started having children. That's a reality for like almost everyone I know is in the same boat. I knew very few people from college or high school that were able to start having kids in their 20s. Almost everyone I knew, the youngest started in like 28 or 29, right? Because they really pursued this stability thing. And it still took 10 years of work before her and her husband were like making enough money to start having kids, or felt financially secure enough to do that. So I really hope the younger generation is able to do this. Now, part of this with my generation is that we were told a bunch of bunko lies about what we had to do to be successful. So we were told, hey, you got to go to college. You have to go to college, you have to get a degree. And then while you're in college, everyone that's there says, well, you probably ought to go to graduate school and get a master's degree. So you spend an extra 2-3 years doing that. I've known people that have PhDs. By the time you finish getting your PhD, if you never took any breaks to work during that time, you're 30 maybe, right? And of course you haven't had kids leading up to that. Then you find out that PhD jobs either don't exist or pay so little that you have to work for another 10 years before you have enough salary to where you can like buy a house and have enough room to have the same lifestyle you experienced as a child. And that's really what this breakover with Gen Y is that as kids, we had like an extremely material rich in existence. So we had lots of toys, but so many of us had broken homes that it's really staggering. It's like the first big social experiment was when the boomers started to divorce. So like, if you think of Gen X, and we would kind of separate them, Brian Niemeyer and JD Cowan and myself, we really kind of separate them into these 10-year groupings because they're very different experiences. Same reason that like you wouldn't put a kid who was born who was 7 in 1941 in the same category as all the men who fought World War fought World War II. So you wouldn't put a 7-year-old in 1941 in the category of the men who fought World War II. They had a wildly different experience than that 7-year-old who knew that the war existed but really had no memory of pre-Depression, had, didn't fight in the war. Maybe they fought in Korea, right? But they're not the same as the greatest generation, right? It's not the same experience. It's a different experience. Same thing with millennials, right? The younger people born in the 90s, well, that's a really different experience than people born in the 80s and the 70s who really remember life before the internet, before social media, and before any of these things that were ubiquitous. If you were 7 when 9/11 happened and you had to wait another 11 years to consider joining the military, it's a different experience than if you were 18 and had just enlisted when 9/11 happened. And I had several friends who were in that category. So it's just really different. It's going to be a different experience between those. So we had a very material rich existence in our childhood, but then the economy completely changed in the early 2000s and collapsed by 2008, so that every single big milestone where we would have had a financial advantage and been able to start making money, we were like on the bottom of it. So the early 2000s, the tech boom, well, we were in college, we weren't making any money then, and the economy was shifting away from you need a college degree to like gig economy, and so basically away from any kind of corporate security. So that most of the people who got degrees in the early 2000s, it's a useless degree. That's also when the cost of college started to skyrocket, right? So especially if you were born a little bit later in the 1980s, you were the first generation that had to take out $100,000 worth of debt to get a college degree. Then it's 2008 and the economy's collapsed and you can't get a job, and you can't even wait tables. You can't find a job. It's so bad. And what are you going to do to pay down that $100,000 worth of debt? You're 10 to 15 years behind what you should have been at all along. So that contrast to where it's like, wait a minute, in order for me to provide my children the same experience I had as a child, living in this material security with lots of good toys in my own room, in a nice big house that's air conditioned. In order for me to provide that for my children, I have to work an extra 10 years and work 2 or 3 extra jobs. My wife and I have to both work. It's going to be really hard. That's the Gen Y experience. Now, I managed to get those things. Like I have a nice house where my kids can have their own rooms. I moved to Texas. Now I have a yard. I have a nice big yard. But those things happened way later than we imagined they would have, or we were told they would have. We're told like go to college and then you get out of college and you have money and you can buy a house. Very few people I knew were able to do that. Most people existed in apartment living for an extra 10 to 15 years. I have lots of peers that are even higher educated than me, and they still can't afford to buy a house. They're working at universities and they can't buy a house. That's the Gen Y experience there. So that contrast between the two, that's a big thing that I talk about in the book as well. And that's a lot of stuff that we talk about in essays in the Generation Y, the New Lost Generation book. So if you want the essays that describe it, that's going to be in J.D. Cowan's book. And then if you want the stories that kind of express it in a fictionalized manner and get a lot of the moods of what it was like to be a kid in the 90s, or to be a young adult in the 2000s, or to be an adult dealing with those things, that's going to be in this book, in Afterglow. And if I was going to say a third book, I'll go ahead and link a third book for you. This will kind of round out the trilogy, which is Eyes in the Walls, which everybody should get and read for Halloween, because it's a great horror book that I wrote. It's great, I know, because I wrote it. It's called Eyes in the Walls. This takes place in, a lot of people, I don't say when it takes place. A lot of people figure it out. It takes place in 1990. Actually, I think either 1990 or 1991. So it takes place in the Gen Y childhood. And there's a lot of things about that are packed into it. The fact that we were very kind of put to the side by our boomer parents, kind of ignored in some cases, left to our own devices, left to roam free in streets that were often deserted because all the adults were at work, things like that. So, but there's a terror to being a child without anyone watching over you. And that's a little bit in that book, it's present in the book. And there's a terror to being a teenage misfit, and that's also in the book. And there's a terror to just not having your parents believe you and your parents trying to fix you with medication, which is an experience that my generation dealt with. So I didn't include this entire novel in the book because it's an entire novel. So it would be like, you know, a third of the book would be just Eyes in the Walls if I were to put it in this collection. I considered it. I'm like, it really goes with this. But anyway, so get Eyes in the Walls, and that's going to be a really good one. In fact, I'll just clue everybody in on that, as I'll probably do a giveaway on Halloween, so you guys can just have it and have that horror book a little bit before the rest of the Afterglow book comes out. But like I said, you've probably already read many of the stories in Afterglow or heard them on the channel because I've done them. These are these kind of shorter video stories I've done. Little audiobooks, maybe with an image. So that's what I've been doing with those. So check it out. Hope you guys are having a good one. Bertie Sanders, what are your thoughts on the War and Magic in Malazan? I do like it. So I often get questions about magic systems. And magic systems is a whole interesting topic. And that topic is interesting because magic systems aren't an emphasis at all in classic fantasy. They're not even there, really, for the most part. You might have some in like Jack Vance, but you're not going to have a magic system in Tolkien, really. Magic is something that people don't understand. The main characters aren't wizards, so there's no explanation of how magic works. You know that Gandalf knows some spells and can do magic, but we don't really know how that works. If you're reading Robert E. Howard, he's dealing with bad guys who are sorcerers, and how their sorcerer's magic works is never explained. Nor do you really want it explained because it's a transcendental threat. Magic is not something you control, but rather something which is a threat to you as a person. Okay, so classic fantasy, there's really very little or no emphasis on, quote, the magic system. This is a modern thing. So the Warrens in Malazan, I think they're great not for the way that they do magic. I think the magic system is soft enough that I can enjoy it for what it is. It's actually a pretty soft magic system in Malazan. But rather the Warrens that you can go into, that like the magic is drawn from some other realm that like you channel its power out into magic. I like that a lot because then you can go to that other realm. You can go to Curled Emmeline, or you can go to like the Realm of Shadow. You can go to, what was the, I used to remember all of them, right? I really am a fan of the Malazan Book of the Fallen, especially maybe the first 5 books, or first 6 books I'd say are really good. Midnight Tides, which is its own book, might be the best one in the series. I'd probably say it's either that one or like the first one, Gardens of the Moon. Gardens of the Moon's really good. So I'm a fan of the series. I think it starts to drag later on, but I still enjoy it for what it is. Lots of good, interesting characters. Generally really well executed. It's entirely done with what I call indirect exposition. Erickson never explains anything. You just kind of have to watch how things work and gather and construct that yourself. And I think that works for the magic system. He doesn't stop and explain, this is how the magic system works. He just shows people using it, and then, okay, that's how it works. And you have a couple of reveals about powerful characters like Quick Bin, some of these other characters that have a little bit more going on than meets the eye, which I think is great. I'm having a pretty good weekend. I was really tired. I sent you a prototype book cover on Twitter. Oh, sorry. I'll look at that. I'll look at that in a little bit. I like the magic in Gentleman Bastards isn't explained because it makes it villainous and terrifying. That's the point. So if you're reading something like Robert E. Howard, the sorcerer's the bad guy. Whether it's like Solomon Kane or it's Conan, magic is something which is bad. It's not something that's under your control. Now I'll talk a little bit about my magic system. I don't even know where my newest book is. It's called Ultrafalden. Let me link it. You have a little bit in this one. I don't like to explain this too much because I think it's more fun for some of the things to remain a mystery and for readers to kind of figure out what's inspiring the magic. The magic in the Eternal Dream, which is my fantasy setting. There's Needle Ash. This one will do. Water of Awakening is where you should start. I'm gonna have the third long book in this. Excuse me. I'm gonna have the third long book in this series coming out. A little bit later, maybe at the end of the year. So, Needle Ash and Water of Awakening, these are good. You should buy them. People really like both these in different ways. But the magic in these really has to do a lot with concepts. And maybe the idea of a Platonic concept realm. But there's no real concept realm in this. Rather, the idea of magic is that you're tapping into the primal energies of creation. And the primal energies of creation are concepts and words which express those concepts. You have to think about how was the world created? Well, God spoke it into being. He spoke creation into being first before he fashioned it, right? So God said, let there be light. And there was light. So the things that exist are spoken into being with words. The concept, the idea is created. It's created out of nothing, right? And there's a word that has that meaning. Birds. What are birds? What are oceans? What is water? We're going to separate the water and the land. Everything is created in contrast in the book of Genesis. So this is really an extension of that. Some people think it's Gnostic, and you can see how Gnostics can think along the same lines, but it's not entirely Gnostic. There's no artificial world, right? The world is real. And in fact, the world that many characters despair over in this series is the world becomes more real over time. It goes from a state of primal energy where things can be changed to a created state where things are immutable. Things become mundane. Things become unchangeable. And as the whole world descends down into a set thing, then magic starts to disappear as well. And there's a center of the world that in this book is called Feylands. It's the Fey, it's the fairyland, right? Where the primal energies still flow in their full power. Things can be made and unmade at will by a person. That shrinks over time until it basically becomes lost. In the later series, the City of Silver, the Moonsong series. Because people are creating the world. That's the thing, is that the concepts are all created by God, but people start to fashion the world even though they don't know it. Things become more fixed because people are there to see them. Things become created because people are there to fix them in their minds and exist there. They become set. So over time, the world becomes more created, not less so. It goes from a state of flux to a state of certainty, and there are beings within that dislike that intensely, right? There are different races everybody's people, but the different races basically descend from people having different reactions to this process. So the elves, of course, are more Fey-like. They dislike the fact that the world becomes this mundane, unchangeable thing. At the same time, they despair over the fact that they can't preserve the things which they have themselves made. So they're always they're themselves in a state of flux. There are beings within the Feylands that you get in this book that are very strange, and they envy people outside because they have souls. Like they have this soul body composite. They have a thing which carries on. They can make the world permanent, and then they can die and disappear. It's like it's a bizarre thing to them, and they want it. They want somebody's soul. They want to have a soul because they are souls in essence. They don't have permanent physical form. They aren't the soul body composite thing that a human is, right? So anyway, they think that they can maybe we could take a soul from a person, and then we'll be able to have people's power. That's in this book as well. So that's really the magic system. It's not a magic system. It's not something that's like roll dice and have it work. So the modern obsession with, let me come all the way back around after explaining mine. The modern obsession with magic systems really comes from RPGs. It's from Dungeons and Dragons and all of the similar role-playing games that exist. GURPS and that stuff. D&D is the big ascendant one that everybody wants to play now. That has rule sets for how you use magic. So that's an interesting thing, that's what inspires people like Brandon Sanderson, I guess, to make these complex kind of science as magic systems. And there's an appeal to the Sandersonian magic systems. I do enjoy his writing. But it's not my favorite way of dealing with magic. I like magic that's more primal and more threatening, like Robert E. Howard, and really like all classic fantasy, like Michael Moorcock. So basically, if you go back before the ascendancy of the 80s and D&D culture, the first wave of D&D culture, like the real stuff, then you'll find that there's no... magic is always something that's fey. It's always something that's from the fairy. It's part of the perilous realm. It's not something that you control yourself. Wizards are dangerous folk. They're not to be trifled with. You are not a wizard. Now it's become like, oh, now you can be a wizard too. It's like the whole Harry Potter thing, right? So Harry Potter wouldn't exist if people hadn't started playing Dungeons and Dragons back in the 80s to have like a mage college system that is like so, at least the illusion of it being very set and systematized. So it's kind of a weird thing, and the other weird thing is that most people who play D&D don't even play the game. They just change the rules or they throw them out. They have house rules. They do all kinds of things to avoid sticking to the rules of the game because they want to have some sort of story experience rather than playing like by some kind of strict set of rules. And so you get the opposite where people don't want magic systems when they're playing the game, but people want the magic systems when they're reading the book, which is inspired by the game, which they don't play. I gotta sneeze. Oh boy, I've been so sneezy today. All right. I like that. Where were we? David, how do you keep your inspiration going? The volume of books, music, content, etc. you produce is impressive. Well, it's not about inspiration. It's about work habits, and I wrote a book on it. It is called... I'm looking at I have like a folder full of links for my books, and it just keeps getting longer. Keys to Prolific Creativity is what it's called. There it is. So you can grab it. I have the entire audiobook on the channel if you want to listen to it. I don't know where to find that right now. Excuse me. It's one of the reasons I didn't stream earlier, is having such bad allergies, but now they're coming back with vengeance. Something's booming. All right. So yes, you can check that out. I go through how to create your creative process that will allow you to finish your projects, get them done on time and under budget. The real problem is almost never inspiration. Rather, it's the ability to work consistently to complete a project. That's the problem. And I've dealt with this as a teacher for many years now. And I've dealt with this as, I guess, like a writing guru guy online for a decade, almost a decade now. Probably half a decade. No, let's not say decade. Maybe, like 5 years. I don't know. And that's the main problem, is that people are not working consistently. So if you can get your work habits squared away, inspiration is really not an issue. Writing is a craft. It's a craft like anything else. There's techniques that go into it. You learn the techniques and you practice the techniques, and that's how you get good at writing. And you're going to learn those and practice those by doing it, by getting up and writing. And it's the same thing with music. You got to get out your instrument. You got to practice every day. If you're a composer, you got to sit down. However you figure out how you're composing, you got to sit down and compose every day. If it's at the piano, or if it's in your score writer, like if you're using Sibelius or Finale, or you're sitting down. The way I tend to do it now is I get like my keyboard and my guitar out and I do stuff in like Ableton, and then if I'm going to write it down, I write it down afterwards. But I tend to just do it all by sound, because that's what I want to go. This is what it needs to sound like, and then we'll figure out how to notate that down later. I used to do it in reverse when I was younger. So, your Uncle Morty's story hit me hard. Boomer parents using materialism to wash away dysfunction coming from divorce. Yeah, I mean, he's not really a boomer, right? He's our generation. There's little clues that this takes place in the distant future. The fact that Caitlin has an auto driving car, and that a bunch of the games are ancient and have been banned, and you can't sell them online, just like how you can't sell certain Dr. Seuss books online. All that stuff is in the future, right? So these are children of the boomers. The boomers kind of washed us with materialism. Here, watch TV, play with these toys, even though we're never around and our marriage is falling apart. And you're going to have to spend some days with dad and some days with mom. And maybe, dad's going to be bad or mom's going to be bad. It's how we grew up, right? And it affected a lot of us. Like, my wife comes from a broken home. And it has a terrible effect on us. It harms us as adults because we get confused about what like marriage is supposed to be like, and what our relationships are. It takes a lot of work to like repair that damage sometimes. And then there's so much uncertainty as a child. Like, you can create like anxiety disorders because there's no certainty when you're a kid. You need that certainty. You need to feel like, someone is there who's going to love me. And even, in the far distant past, people may have died who had children, but they were surrounded by other families. So there was always a feeling like there's other people around to take care of me. And when you feel like that's not the case, then you start to get worried. And so that's the thing about Uncle Marty is who's going to take care of Uncle Marty? I don't know. We don't know. That's the idea here. So it's not really about inspiration. I have way more ideas than I have time to work on. It's really about just having a good work habit. I'm not even really super diligent when I work. Like, I'm not like, I'm going to sit down and focus, do 2,000 words, right? I'm like, well, I'm going to watch a YouTube video for a minute. I'm going to write some words. I'm going to get a soda. I'm going to pet the dog. And I'm going to take out the trash and write some more words. Like, I tend to be very distracted a lot when I work. But I do it every day. And dang it, stuff gets done eventually, right? So as long as you can do it every day, even if you're like bad with focus, even if you're easily distracted, if you're just doing it every day, eventually you're going to get there. And you're going to develop the focus. Focus is like a muscle you have to exercise. It's something that takes a lot of effort. It's very hard for me. Like, sometimes I can like, okay, kids are going to play for a minute. I'm going to write. It's not going to be that productive because like, Daddy, what's this? Blah, blah, blah. I want a cookie. Blah, blah, blah. Play with me. Here's My Little Pony jumping on your keyboard. Okay, thank you. I needed Twilight Sparkle to help me write my book. But you make little progress and eventually you get your stuff done. It's like hitting the gym. When you first start out, it's more about going and just doing a little bit to build the habit, and it becomes easier to just do it. Yeah. It's like people are like, what do I need to do at the gym? What kind of workout should I start with? I'm like, just go to the gym, right? Just go and just have, in fact, if you're a newbie, just go and use machines. Machines make sure you can't really do them wrong. You're probably not going to hurt yourself on the little bench press machine, right? Just go and do it. And then like, oh man, I'm sore. Yeah, you did some work. And then, dig deeper, read more articles, watch more videos from guys who know their way around the gym. And then eventually you pick up all the habits, you know how to do all the exercises. But the important thing is that you show up to the gym. You have the habit of like, I go to the gym and I do stuff for 45 minutes. If you have that simple habit, then boy, it's going to make a big difference. Last week I felt awful because I missed like a bunch of days of exercise because I usually exercise after my kids go to sleep. Well, my kids had the craziest sleep schedule this week. My daughter was up till 3 a.m. one night and then falling asleep and staying up till 2 a.m. And like, I couldn't really exercise with her around. I used to be able to at my old house. I'd put on a movie and then I'd like do push-ups. But that's kind of what I've been relegated to. I'm actually going to cancel my gym membership because I haven't gone in a couple weeks. I'm still doing like cardio and other stuff, but it's like, I got to just find a way to do it at home because losing 20 minutes going to and from the gym is just not acceptable. It just takes too long to get there. I don't have an extra hour and a half to work out. I need to work out in 30 minutes. That's the time that I have. So that means I got to rearrange, sometimes you got to rearrange priorities. Luckily, keep the cardio going. You're not getting too fat. That's the hope there. Yeah. I managed to make it a habit of devoting a few hours a day to writing, albeit super late at night. It's left over from my college years. Yeah, that's fine. Just spend some time with it. And eventually you get stuff done. You get better, You got to write a couple 100,000 words, maybe 1 million words to start getting good at prose writing. You just have to practice, right? A lot of the stuff you write early on is going to be bad. And that is okay. It's okay that your first thing isn't good. Everyone sucks when they start doing something new. Like the first screenplay I wrote was really bad. There were good parts about it. I can look back on it and laugh at lots of stuff. There's really funny parts to it. But it's not like a really good story because I just hadn't developed that as a writer yet. It took me a lot more practice to really get good, and it took me more practice to get good at writing prose books. So anyway, that's how I feel about that. It took me, I think, about the third attempt at a book is when I actually was able to write something that I thought was good enough to publish. Anyway, I was gonna play some games. Instead I talked for 40 minutes, which is fine. I actually have not played Final Fantasy VII since the last time I streamed it, so I don't even know where I'm at, I'm somewhere. Yeah, we'll find it. We'll just play a little bit, chat. I'm playing this on a Vita using Adrenaline. Let me go ahead and see if I can pull it up here. There it is. And where's my camera? Oh, this is different. Hold on a second. There we go. Where did my camera go? All right. What does that back in? Video capture and existing. There we are. And we'll just be down here. Look at that. Still have 147 gigs left on this card. Good times, have I all. Got a lot of games. Let's see. Yeah, Final Fantasy VII's down here. It's right here. There it goes. Sure, we have some sound here. Project it up here so I can see it a little better. Right here. Boom. Yeah, I don't remember where I'm at. How do you feel about sensitivities about putting kids in adult situations? One of my stories takes place in ancient Greece and has a 13-year-old join the army and does violence and sex. I don't have an answer for that. I don't usually do that. I don't write a lot of stories about that. Other people have. Yeah. I'm in the gold saucer? And we met, oh man, I just do not remember where we're supposed to go here at all. Of course, we have like a car. Yeah, I don't remember this at all. Well, we'll wander around for a little bit and chit chat, you know. Football's going well. Have to attend mass. Okay, have a great one. I don't know why I have catchy out. Whatever. I think I picked it for some reason. I think you can pick up some magic here. I don't remember. I was gonna say I generally don't like stories that have 13-year-olds doing like a bunch of adult things because that's just not very realistic. Like, what was the book I reviewed? Prince of Thorns. One of the worst fantasy books I've read. Now that I think about it, just really cringe. It had a character who was like 13, but could like lead a whole army of bandits, and they just like followed him, I guess. Like, it just really was not realistic at all, and frankly was like almost offensive. It's like 13-year-old having sex with a prostitute. Like, do we have to do this? This always happens. If you take time off of a Final Fantasy game and jump back into it, you're like, what was I doing? I don't remember where I was supposed to go. I think this is one of those things that extended the game when I was like a kid, you know? Was just having to take too long to do things. Made it seem like you were you know, like the game was longer than it actually was, versus if you are just, you know, mini. I like Clark's third law of science magic for heroes because it renders the power morally neutral and severs any connection to the occult. Supernatural magic versus goofy villains. You know, giving a character magic, sometimes you have to ask yourself, like, why not just give him a gun? You know? Why can't it be technological? Uh-oh. Attack from both sides. Stone stare. That's an achievement. DH Pelagro died. Couldn't manipulate. Alright, we're gonna turn in this thing. Game over. Sorry. Look at that game over screen. I haven't seen that in a while. That's fun. Ba-ba-ba-da-ba-da-bum. I do have main characters who do magic in my books, but it's a little bit different. And usually each book has a different main character. So the protagonist in the next book, it's called King Leper. I guess I could show like an early cover design. I'll tweet it out at some point. Yeah, so the protagonist in King Leper is a king. You know, he's not a... Wait, no, I came from here. Yeah, I came from... That's Costa del Sol. We're trying to go to a different area. Sorry. How's the new pup? He's good. He's sleeping in the other room right now. Bolt magic here. Couldn't manipulate. Do you know what tags are in pulp writing? Lester Dent wrote a great article about them called "Wave Those Tags." No, I don't pay attention to a lot of that stuff. The biggest hindrance these days is poor optimization. We've been in a graphics plateau for quite a while, in my opinion. The big hurdle is trying to get things to render well at 4K. Like, to have that ultra sharp. Things honestly look really good in HD. And we've had things like, people said this between the PS3 and the PS4. There's like, the graphics look the same. You know, the PS3 and the PS4 was not a big leap. The PS4 to the PS5 didn't feel like a big leap. We've been in a graphics plateau for about 10 years. But you wouldn't know it because the companies that make things like video cards will always highlight whatever new thing they can do. You know, oh, this does ray tracing. The ray tracing is cool. Like it's, back in during this time period, 1990s, it was all about. It was all about polygons. Like, how many polygons can you render? The more polygons you can render, the better. Right? Obvious, right? Makes sense. In the 2000s, it really became about textures. Going into like 2010. How big and detailed the textures you can make. We've been in like the texture mode for like almost, really 10 years. We're like maximizing textures, the best textures. Now we're in the best lighting, can we do ray tracing? It's like, you can run ray traced Doom, which is actually pretty cool. I think I've streamed it before. Ray traced Doom looks really good. But you need like a monster video card to ray trace a program from 1994. How bizarre is that? It's pretty bizarre. A tag is any distinctive feature for a character. Okay. Yeah, there's things that you... If you were to talk to Elmore Leonard, he would say it's a bunch of bunk. He's dead now, but, he would use 0 of those things. Virtually none. The only tag might be that the character has a hat or something, right? Because when you're writing prose, you don't need that because their name is right there, right? Keep the reader from getting confused. You should really just not have so many characters they forget what a character is, I guess. I noticed, like, the characters have traits, but I don't talk about it a lot. Like, what's the point of that? Elmore Leonard specifically would just not do a ton of character descriptions. Like, you don't need it. Lester's right there, you know, if you have a character named Lester, you know, whoever it is. And it isn't, might be another game over here. Let's mini eyes one of these guys and see what happens. Yeah, I would not prescribe that advice, personally. Like, I don't think it's necessary all the time. But it's good to know that characters have traits, and that if they have, especially if they have traits which, which matter. You know, do their traits matter? Like, for instance, not just do they smoke, but what does smoking do? How does smoking affect them? Oh, shoot. We're going to all end up as rocks here. I wonder if this status persists after the battle. Yeah, my opinion about that is just, I don't think it's something you really need to worry about. Like, that's not a technique you have to do. It's not necessary for most stories. You know, I rarely have more than 2 characters in any given scene anyway. That's not, you know, you can have as many characters in a scene as you want. I was reading, like, one of the Harry Potter books, and there's, like, 6 characters in one scene. And you could tell she was really having to stretch a lot to keep the dialogue tags from being monotonous. Because you have a lot of characters, like 5 characters exchanging dialogue. Ends up being kind of crazy after a while. Might need to go back to the inn here. I think I'm supposed to go to that burned out tree. I don't really remember. Go back to the gold saucer. I think there's an inn there. The other thing is, so I'm going to say this too. This is another, I'll give you another opinion from the other side, which is that you shouldn't need a character to be blowing smoke for you to know something about that character. The character should express himself through the dialogue, right? You should know who the character is by the way they talk. You know, you should be able to, like, remove all dialogue tags and still have a pretty good idea of who said what based on how they said it. And that's really a sign of good characterization, is if you can do something like that. You know, then you're doing really good. What am I doing here? Yeah, straight up don't remember. I remember how to get back into the gold saucer. Oh, that's right. We have to take, like, the bus or the transport or whatever to get there. No, we'll just go. Ever since I read Lester Dent's article, I started noticing tag waving almost every 1930s to 40s pulp story that I read. I haven't read a lot of stuff from the 30s and 40s lately to, like, notice that. and punch. Wow. You know, sometimes you can have stuff like Nynaeve pulling her braid in Wheel of Time that, like, you hear it 100,000 times in a 13-book series, and you're like, okay, I get it. She fidgets with her hair. Okay, you don't need to mention that anymore. So for really long books, that can maybe you don't need to do that as much. I can see it for like short works. Like if you're trying to do something really short and you just really want to do as much characterization in as short a space as possible. Somebody who fidgets. Stephen King talks about this too. It's like a person who's always fidgeting, a person who's always, he'll have a character like grabbing at their crotch to pull their pants down, which is a weird thing, but it's just a piece of characterization that makes that character really instantly memorable. You're only going to be with them for like a couple pages, so you really want to hammer the characterization home, really make it really defined in that short amount of space. Versus a character that you have a lot of time to get to know them on a more intimate level. You know. Yeah, pulp writing is all about getting to the point as quickly as possible. You know, it's entertainment. So from that perspective, anything that like characterizes quickly is going to be a benefit. For sure. Look at this jungle. Couldn't manipulate. Dang it. I'm not sure what I need to be doing with, like, Gachi here, to be honest. I have a soft here somewhere. Bio him. I really like the new rendition of Let the Battles Begin in the remake. I liked the remake. I liked the music in the remake a lot. It's like all this music, but you know, reorchestrated, recomposed. There's a lot to the remake. It really is a pretty good game, and honestly, I don't know. I feel like Midgar is the most interesting part of the story. There's a reason a lot of people stop after disc 1 in this game. It's because it really does drag. It's just a drag at this point. Like these little chores don't really go anywhere or reveal that much after we dealt with Barrett, you know. Did you hear about the Paul Pelosi situation? I heard about it, but I don't know any details. It sounded to me like he was attacked by a homeless man. Oh, great, we're toads. That's great. you have something that gets rid of that? Maiden's Kiss, so, well. This might be another game over, friends. Go get some Maiden's Kisses here. Frog song. Yeah, I think we're done here. Oh, learned enemy skill, frog song. And now he's a frog. Can we run away? Barely even remember playing through the original game. Yeah, I mean... Run away. Run away. Yeah, this is... Are we still toads? There we are. I gotta run away more at this point, I think. Did you... yeah, I don't know what... It sounded like a homeless person, like, ran into their house and attacked them. Let's run away from this. Run away. Can we run away? Pause this for a second. After we get out of here. Okay. Sorry, I looked up a guide. I'm like, oh yeah, you're supposed to go south of the river. Why don't you get his autograph? He was heading toward Gongaga. Right. Get out of here. I'm going in the wrong direction is the problem. What's up here? Gongaga is south of the river. Actually, we're going to go up towards... What do you call it? Yeah, this is one of the ones, I think this will give us a spell here. It doesn't have any skill yet. Alright. Any potions? Dice. Alright, we got it. So this one we can learn. This is a skill we can actually learn here. So let's see if we can learn it. Phoenix down. those guys again. The attacker lived in a hippie commune with a pride flag in his front yard and allegedly has a history as a male prostitute. Interesting. Sounds like a homeless person, actually. If only he had some sort of tool to defend himself, some object created solely to ward off attackers, an arm of some sort, if you will. Alas, I cannot think of anything that would help. It's just too bad. I don't know if I can get anything from these guys. Manipulated. Okay. He's dead. Dang it. There's quite a bit of damage there. Honestly, out of the older games, Final Fantasy IV is probably my favorite. Mine too. But I think it's probably my favorite in general. Oh my god. He's dead. We gotta run away here. Oh man. There's no end to stand. I think if we can get up to the gold saucer, we can stay in. Not the gold saucer. What is this place? Costa del Sol? Alright. Stay at an inn. Is it an inn? I don't remember where the inn is. I do like the music, though. Snore. We got the items in here. Still need to play Stranger of Paradise. Original Final Fantasy is still my favorite. Stranger of Paradise is really fun. That's like the takeaway from Stranger of Paradise, is that it's just really fun. Man, it's gotta be an inn. Right? Not crazy. There's the end. Where's the innkeeper? I don't think there's an innkeeper here. Stay. You must be tired. I think Cecil carries the plot better than most Final Fantasy IV protags. He really does. He's great. He's a great character. Him and Kane both, yeah. Alright. See if I can find an item shop. Because I think I need some items to get through this part. Is this guy an item shop? Let's find out. Yeah, we need some softs. Maiden kisses. I don't have any maiden kiss. Hyper tent. I guess I could have popped a tent. I gotta remember I have tents. I'm gonna buy a few more of those. Now that we have the frog song, though, we can actually turn people back into, like, yeah, we have Mantra Magic Aqualung. Do we have the frog song? Don't know. See our frog song? Let's check our materia. Did I actually set this up right? Transform. Oh, I didn't. Where's enemies? Do I have enemy skill? Oh, shoot. So he's got enemy skill. Catchy should have manipulate, transform. Makes sense. Let's see anything else here. We'll do fire because we actually level that up. Actually do. I think someone else has the enemy order. PHS. Oh, I can't do that. I have to go outside the city to do that. Okay. Alright, whatever. What are your thoughts on Twitter now being owned by Elon Musk? Can't be any worse than it was. It can only be better, right? So it's probably going to be good. Can I see what's on there? I'm guessing she has the stuff, the enemy skill materia. Steel throat, nope. Funny noise. Does she have it? I thought I had two. Nope. Does he have it? No. I thought I had two, but I guess I don't. Guess I am misremembering. I'm trying to remember the stuff here. Material. Well, I guess Cloud's gonna end up with the enemy skills. I think it gets attached to the materia though, so that's helpful. Fire, another one we can do. Elemental and fire. Okay. Manipulate. Let's try this again. Back down there and see if we can... No, we already got Aqualung. What's the next one we need to get here? Big guard. Alright, that's going to be on this beach. We'll get some kind of weird squiggle thing here. Oh, side attack. Bolt 2. Get rid of one of those. Ouch. Let's attack. Let's manipulate this one. Manipulate. Should be able to manipulate this guy. I guess I could put the manipulate materia on any character, huh? I don't have to use Catchy, considering Catchy's kind of bad. You know? We'll try it. Elon Musk said he wants to make Twitter more like the Chinese site WeChat, which is an all-in-one site for everything. Chinese practically there. I think that's actually not a bad idea. You know, there's many times where I wish Twitter did more things, believe it or not. The problem is, like, you really got to keep that character limit down because people want to get the gist of something as they're scrolling through the feed. The character limit's really important. You can do threads, but you got to keep that character limit if you want Twitter to be Twitter. All right, we got it. So big guard apparently is one. All right, White Wind is the next one. Let's do this. Catchy at level 20. Let's do. We'll keep Catchy in the party for now. Really won't like either Yuffie or Tifa. Tifa's really good DPS. So I don't want to neglect her. You have to go back to the old comic. Drive the buggy straight into Costa del Sol without getting out of the vehicle, and wander over to the Costa del Sol harbor. This is not the harbor. This is the beach. Where's the harbor? Down? Down? Clearly, I didn't go the right way. Nothing going on there. Clearly, there's something I'm missing. This is not taking us to the harbor. Sorry, I'm following a guide because I was like, what was I doing? It's like probably banned in YouTube streaming. Now following a guide. I'd like to hire a gorgeous chick to have a good time. Can I go? There's a sign pointing this way. Like, can I go that way? I don't think I can go that way. Remember how to get to the harbor. Yeah, Cecil was a great protagonist. Over the top? I don't know. Ah, that's it. Go back here and talk to this guy, and he charges us 100 gil to go back. Yeah, okay. We'll go back to the other one. Have any hopes for 16? Yes, I hope it's a really good game. I hope it's a really good game. What was that noise? Is it raining again? How's your ear doing? It's a little bit better, but I can't hear any high end out of it at all. I can hear mid range and low frequencies. That's it. So like this sound, it's nothing. This ear, like by my hearing aid, it's like crystal clear. But other ears, can't understand anything. Can't understand speech, which is the big thing. I can hear mid range frequencies pretty good though. Where did I go from here? Column. All right, we're good at taxing. Outside of Junon it is. Take care. Alright, we're gonna get this character here. Zemzalet is what we're looking for. Alright, there he is. Defend. Manipulate. Couldn't manipulate. Then manipulate. Defend. Manipulate. Oh boy. Thunderbolt. Manipulate. There we go. Now. White win. His skill power is used up. Well, let's kill him. I'm gonna do that again. No biggie. Yeah, I like Final Fantasy XIV as well. I still play from time to time on Zalera. I haven't played in a while. I've been playing Cyberpunk 2077 actually. Not streaming it, just playing it. So yeah, I don't think these guys do anything. But we'll try it. Yeah, Catchy's having a hard time manipulating. I wonder if it's a stat thing. So let me check the stats. If it's like low luck, maybe. It's pretty high luck. think we'll just stick with it till we level up. It's kind of hard to get levels on Catchy. Did you do this Centerman job yet? I don't know if I did. It sounds familiar. I don't know what it is. I think it's one where you assassinate someone or something. I don't know. I'm not really doing a lot of the side quests because I don't care about that. I'm like, just let's do the main game and be done with this game so I can move on to something else. It's not a world I care about exploring or playing in very much. I detest it. Yeah. I hate Night City with a passion. I do not enjoy role-playing in it. In fact, I romanced, what's her name? Panem? She's a nomad, and I was like really excited to find out that you can leave with the nomads at the end of the game. I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want my character to leave this place and never return because I hate it. Now, it doesn't mean it's a bad game. I'm just saying I hate Night City. It looks like shit. It looks like a horrible place to live. It's like a dystopian nightmare, which is the point of Cyberpunk, right? It's about the dark future. But there's people who enjoy it in a way that, frankly, is bizarre to me. Like, I don't know why you would find Night City as a place appealing. Alright, I'll do it. I think I have it on the queue here. I'm on, like, one of the last missions, I think. So I'll take a pause. I was gonna do Judy's mission to like take over the clouds. I started doing that. I did all of Panem's missions, which are cool. I like the nomads. I find them a lot more fun. I guess I find them a lot more fun than most of the other things in the game. Oops. No, let's get out of here. I'll do the Centerman quest. I'll do it. As you say to me. I have trouble understanding speech too, right? Very common among anybody who has, like, experience in the army. You get a lot of hearing loss in your right ear. My dad had it too. And that's because the report tends to hit your right ear, even though, you know, you think the report of other people's guns is going to be louder, but it's that chamber of that M16, you know, it's right there. And same thing if you're using similar rifles. It's very loud on your right side, so it will slowly deafen you. Even if you're being okay with hearing protection, you can lose your hearing, especially on the right side. Very common. Here we go. I'm gonna find this guy again. Oh, we got a different guy today. I don't know, maybe there's something he does. Let's find out. He hits us hard, maybe? Like Headless Horseman guy. Yeah, the report hits your right ear through your skeleton. Same thing for power tool use. If you're cutting aluminum, you'll hear the noise through your bones. Yeah, bone conduction. So that's a lot of hearing loss that, like, you know, I have conductive hearing loss due to my articular chain basically being broken. That won't be conductive loss. That's sensory loss, and it'll happen through conduction. You can have. That's why artillery guys can wear earplugs and earmuffs and still go deaf. Most cyberpunk tropes are coming true. Yeah, I mean, I'm a cyborg. I'm literally a cyborg, guys. The Night City has never fade away in it, so that was kind of cool. I don't know what that is. I really don't like the music of Cyberpunk 2077 either. I really dislike the soundtrack rather intensely. I feel like Johnny Silverhand, like I just hate all the music. Doesn't surprise you that most people are like embracing it. They like the security being tracked and monitored. Yeah, if you go into a store and see like a closed circuit camera and you like that, that might be a, I don't know, might be a red flag. I don't know. Switch up catchy. Let's get Tifa in here. Let's give her some. Does she have anything to equip that's better? Mithril Claw. Let's give her Elemental Fire. For Manipulate. Or something good. Revive, poison. Yeah, I really need to use some poison. Alright. Are you talking the in-game BGM or the radio stations? Oh, I hate the radio stations. The in-game background music's kind of okay. A lot of it I really dislike, but I hate the radio stations. Not a single listenable thing have I heard on it so far. I turn off the radio immediately whenever I can. I hate it. It's probably my least favorite soundtrack of all time for a game. Cyberpunk 27. It's a good game. I enjoy playing it. And some parts of the soundtrack are actually pretty good, and there's definitely like effective battle music and stuff. But you know. You know, mostly I hate the music. Yeah. I give the music like a 5 out of 10. A high F. There's some good music in it. Most of it I really dislike. I've thought about installing like a soundtrack mod just to get some better music in there. The thing is, it reminds me of all the music I hated from the 90s. It reminds me of 90s music, and I really don't like 90s music at all. I find 90s music just like unbearable sometimes. Like, other people my age really like music from the 90s, and that's how I know that, like, you just like whatever was popular when you were 16. That's 90% of people don't have any music taste. They just like whatever was popular when they were 16. Nothing, I mean, there's nothing that wrong with it. It's just, that's most people. Lately, though, I really can't stand the sound of music. Like, I just can't stand listening to most music at all. The only thing I can really listen to is things that I, like ambient music that I haven't heard before, because I can't hear things correctly at all. It's like kind of maddening, so, you know, take that with a grain of salt. Yeah, it's the degeneracy in the game I don't like. It's like a big joke, and I would be laughing if it was 2012, but it's 2022, and I have children. I'm like, this is like the reality we live in now, and it's gross. You know, like big ads of dudes with like butts in their face, and like, you know, prostitutes everywhere, and weird prostitution things. Like, I really dislike the world a lot, and I think it's very ugly. I really don't like the aesthetics. A lot of people like the aesthetics of Cyberpunk. I'm not one of those people. I don't enjoy cyberpunk aesthetics really at all. There we go, finally. Couldn't manipulate. White wind. Ah, it's skill powers he's done. Really? How is his skill power used then? Does he get it back? Fancy world building, that's true. I guess I didn't get frog song. I might have died here. Or run away from... I think I ran away from the battle. What happened. Alright, we'll get in. Pondsmith's writing on expanded setting is pretty interesting. Islam is the largest religion in that world because it violently rejects the degeneracy. Yeah. That's cool, actually. Let's just run away. You don't need these guys. Let's run away. Yeah, Mike Pondersmith, who created Cyberpunk 2020. There's a lot of things I like about the game. I actually think they do a really good job with the storytelling. I think the aesthetics match the mood of the world. But people like wanting to extensively explore and play in the world, it's just not for me. It's kind of like Fallout. You know, I don't love Fallout for some of the same reasons. Not any kind of place I would want to be in. There we go. There we go. Learn enemy skill, white wind. Alright. Let's hit him with bio. Level that out. Wow, that's a lot of heat, but I think it does a lot of damage. So. Alright, now we can go back to the other part. Make sure I didn't get out of the little cart. Give me 10 gil. Okay, I guess. The East Coast Fallout settings have always been poor. The West Coast settings were interesting because people rebuilt and they knew how to use a square. Yeah. I never people really like Fallout New Vegas. It's okay. It's a very okay game to me. I played through it once years ago. People complain that it's buggy. I didn't really have bug issues. It was a fine game. I don't know if it's my favorite. Probably the original Fallout I liked the best because it had the most RPG elements. You know. People just live like vermin on the East Coast in Fallout's world, yeah. It's again, a Fallout, it's a retrofuturism. That's the thing about cyberpunk is it's retrofuturism. So being retrofuturism just means that it's like an outdated, it's like reading Jules Verne. It's like an interesting look at how people thought the future was going to be, you know, however many hundreds of years ago. That's cute. They did the little twirl thing. What is this guy? I think this is the right way. What's this guy doing? I don't remember. What's in here? Okay. I don't need any material. No. Let's get going with this game. We're wasting time picking up enemy skills. Oh, there's Simba. Where am I? I'm old. Is this the right way? I don't even remember. Maybe? Like, this area is so vast and so easy to get lost in. I think this is it. Go back and then get on the ship and go back to the other continent. I should be actually a little gentler with Cyberpunk. There are a lot of things about the aesthetics I like. Sometimes the city does look cool, but on the street level, it looks really gross. West Coast rebuilt quickly because all their problems were solved decades before Fallout 3 began. It's really funny how people tend to ignore that for some reason. I hadn't really thought about it at all. Fancy world building, ugly certainty, but that's the appeal, I guess. No comparison to the Witcher series. The degeneracy doesn't work well without an in-game straight man to call it out. Without it, it feels juvenile. That's a good point. Yeah. I enjoyed the combat. That's probably the best part about it. The gameplay's really good. I think in the 90s we would have really enjoyed it because, like, the degenerate stuff... It's like why we liked the Duke Nukem girls showing their boobs in the 90s. It's like the degeneracy just doesn't... You know, it's just like a... Ooh, it's a little risque. It's a little bit, you know, forbidden slightly. You know, it's not like a... It's not a huge thing. No. It's like, what do you mean? We have... There's infinity free pornography everywhere. So, like, who cares about seeing pixelated boobs somewhere? You know what I mean? Like, the people who want to see risk... It's why, like, some of the Game of Thrones obsession with nudity is so silly to me. It's like, what? Dude, you live in the era of infinite free porn. Why do you care about this? You can see the dirtiest, grossest thing you want. Acted out by live human beings. In an instant. No, that's a bad one. That's my cat making the racket. Sorry about that. But the other thing about the Fallout settings is New Vegas and Fallout 3 both. Fallout 4 didn't have as much of this problem, but I didn't like the gameplay as much. Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas had really fun gameplay, so that's definitely their saving grace. It's like the Fallout, the gameplay's really good. That's what I was gonna say. But they just have this tumbled brown landscape of nothingness. It's really boring to look at. You know, the first time I played Fallout 3 was with a brand new gaming PC, and I was like immediately blown away by the polygons, but I got very bored of how it looked. It's really easy to get lost in Fallout 3 because literally everything looks the same. There's no differentiation to anything. Fallout New Vegas has a lot more differentiation. You can look at places and they look different from each other. None of them look like places you'd ever want to visit, but they at least look different from each other. I did rather enjoy Fallout New Vegas. I got to a camp and it was just Prim. It was Prim Las Vegas, which I would drive through every single week. I played it when I lived in Las Vegas, so it was kind of fun to go to Buffalo Bills, or they had a stand in for that. There's a casino right on the edge of the Nevada border. That it's just funny, you know. Nudity in film never made sense to me unless prawn was hard to come by. I think what continues to titillate people is actually not seeing the skin itself. It's that you're seeing that celebrity is where I think people are. I think that's what entices them. Is it's like, oh, you're seeing this celebrity's breasts, which you have not seen before. So the idea of like the forbidden, seeing something forbidden really comes down to context. Like there's nothing forbidden about the sex act at all anymore. Right? Or am I missing something? Like you can see whatever you want on the internet. It's that, oh, this person, that's where OnlyFans really sells. That's how girls on OnlyFans sell themselves. It's like, I'm a new and unique person. Yes, you have seen human genitals before, but you haven't seen my genitals. You get people to want to pay for that. Plus, like, the parasocial relationship. Generally, I don't like pornography, by the way. But I'm saying, like, if that's what people actually, like, cared about, you know, just turn on the internet. And with deepfakes, you could probably get like 90% of the way there anyway. Where is this place? Over here? Oh, here it is. Alright. Okay, this is where we need to be. Is someone there? Hey, Rude. Who do you like? What are you getting so embarrassed about? Come on, who do you like? It's like kids talking on the playground. Tifa. That's a tough one. But poor Elena, No, she liked saying. I never knew that, but saying likes that ancient. What are they talking about? It's so stupid. They always talk about who they like or don't like, but saying is different. Ah, oh no! They're here. They're really here. Then it's time. Rude, don't go easy on them, even though they're girls. Don't worry, I'll do my job. Then we're counting on you. I'll report to Tseng. It's been a while. Payback time for what you did in Sector 7. I don't like being taken for a fool. That's as far as you go. Alright, little boss battle here. Alright, so let's see here. We want to fire 2. I wonder if I can mini that other guy. Let's try it out. That'd be funny. No, it didn't work. Oh, don't die, Cloud. What's that? Alright, let's do high potion on Cloud. Grab a cool, like, aqua lung. Let's just attack. Magic. Can we bio him? Does that do any damage? I'm not even paying attention here. Yeah, man, that hit pretty hard. We may be retreating, but we're still victorious. Oh, they're both running away. Got a fairy tale. A lot of money. We've left a lot of money behind. How could they know we were coming here? They followed us, but there weren't any signs of it. Then that means a spy? No way. I don't even want to think that there's a spy. I trust everyone. Alright. I need to call the stream because I'm out of time. It's 5 o'clock. I gotta get on to some other stuff. Sadness. Tifa has sadness. She's sad. Alright, we're gonna save the game, and I'll see you guys next time. Alright guys, thanks for joining me on this little quest. I will see you all next time. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and all that other kind of stuff. And take it easy. We'll see you later.